The scent of crushed thyme and baked stone hangs heavy over the port of Tyre in the late summer of 1182. A lone dromon, its purple sails slack in the still air, glides past the breakwater. Upon its deck, shrouded in a cloak of Frankish wool despite the heat, stands a man whose name is murmured from the souks of Damascus to the taverns of Paris, Raymond III, Count of Tripoli, regent of the Kingdom of Jerusalem. His eyes, the color of a winter sea, scan the ramparts. He has returned from a captivity of 4 years in Aleppo, a prisoner of war turned political pawn, and now the realm he is sworn to protect balances on the edge of a dagger. Beyond the city, in the rolling hills of Galilee, the barley is gold and ripe for harvest. And beyond those hills, gathering like a storm in the south, is the army of Saladin Yusuf ibn Ayyub, Saladin. The Sultan has sworn an oath upon the black stone of the Kaaba. This year the cross will be torn from the dome of the rock. Within the cool, dark hall of the royal palace in Jerusalem, the only light falls in sharp shafts from high, narrow windows, cutting through the incense haze to illuminate the floating dust. At the chamber's end, upon a dais, sits King Baldwin IV. He is 21 years old. A silver mask, expertly wrought to resemble a serene, youthful countenance, covers the upper portion of his face. From the chin downward, the linen wrappings are visible, bound tightly to contain what lies beneath. His left hand, gloved in the finest kid leather, rests on the arm of his throne. His right arm is held close to his body, the hand hidden within the folds of his robe. The leprosy has progressed. It is a quiet, relentless occupant of his flesh. Yet when he speaks, his voice is clear, devoid of self-pity, carrying the weight of a crown born since boyhood. Before him stand the pillars of his crumbling world. Guy de Lusignan, his sister Sibylla's husband, handsome and ambitious, his armor polished to a blinding sheen. Raymond of Châtillon, Lord of Ultra-Jourdan, a beast of war unleashed from years in a Muslim dungeon, his eyes burning with a crusader fury that acknowledges no truce. And Gerard de Ridefort, the newly elected Grand Master of the Knights Templar, a man of fervent conviction and brittle pride. They have been arguing for an hour. The topic, the imminent threat from the south, and the Count of Tripoli's return. Raymond treats with the Saracens, Gerard spits, his hand on the pommel of his sword. He drank coffee with Saladin's emirs in Damascus to secure his release. Can a man sup with the devil and not crave his feast? He is a viper, welcomed back to our bosom. Guy de Lusignan nods, his gaze fixed on the king. His loyalty is to his own county, to Tripoli, not to Jerusalem. He will seek a separate peace, leave us to face the storm alone. Only Raynald remains silent, a smirk playing on his scarred lips. He knows the value of a good storm. It washes away the weak. Baldwin listens, the silver mask giving nothing away. When he finally moves, it is a slow, deliberate turn of his head toward the window. The storm is already here, he says, his voice low. Saladin's scouts are in the Golan. His main host gathers at Baniaz. He does not seek a siege of Jerusalem, not yet. He seeks to gut the kingdom, to sever its limbs. He will come for Galilee, for the harvest, for Tiberias. He pauses, the labored breath from his damaged lungs a faint whisper in the silent hall. Raymond of Tripoli is Lord of Tiberias. His wife rules there now. Will he let it fall, or will he defend his own? His defense is our defense. Summon him. The order is a gamble. Raymond and Guy despise each other. Raymond, the seasoned statesman, views Guy as a feckless upstart, a consort elevated beyond his station. The court fractures along this fissure. The Haute Cour, the kingdom's ruling council, becomes a battleground of hissed insults and slammed fists. While the barons bicker, Saladin moves. In early September, his army, a glittering river of lance points and colored banners, crosses the Jordan south of the Sea of Galilee. His target is clear, the fortress of Belvoir, the mighty Star of the Wind, a Templar stronghold that guards the approaches to the Jezreel Valley. But it is a feint. As the Christian host, a fragile coalition forced together by the king's decree, gathers at Sephoria to relieve Belvoir, Saladin's lightning strike falls elsewhere. A rider, his horse lathered in death sweat, stumbles into the Sephoria camp at midnight. He brings word from the north, not from Belvoir, but from the fishing town of Beirut. A second Ayyubid army, a fleet of galleys and transports commanded by Saladin's brother, Al-Adil, has appeared off the coast. The sails are numberless. The invasion is not a single thrust, but a two-pronged pincer. Panic, cold and swift, runs through the ranks. Do they march to save Belvoir in the south, or race north to save Beirut, a vital port, from capture and sack? In his tent, lit by a single guttering candle, Baldwin IV confronts his regent and his brother-in-law. Raymond, his face etched with the exhaustion of travel and treasonous accusations, spreads a vellum map on a campaign table. Belvoir is a rock. It can withstand a siege for months. Beirut is flesh. It will fall in weeks, and with it our last secure lifeline to Cyprus and Europe. Guy de Lusignan argues for boldness, for meeting the main threat head-on. Saladin himself is at Belvoir. Destroy his army and his brother's fleet will wither. To divide our forces is madness. The king, seated on a folding stool, his masked face inclined toward the map, is a statue of pained concentration. The fever is upon him today, a cold fire in his bones that even the heavy cloak cannot assuage. He points a gloved finger to a point on the coast midway between the two crises. Here, he says, we march to Tyre. It is a central position. From Tyre, we can threaten Al-Adil's flank if he lands at Beirut, and our movement will pull Saladin from Belvoir. He will not sit before a fortress while the army of Jerusalem is in the field. He must come to us. We choose the ground. It is a strategy of sublime risk. It demands unity, speed, and absolute trust in the king's judgment. For a moment, the tension in the tent dissolves into a shared grim purpose. They will march at dawn. The army that moves out from Sephoria is the last, best hope of the kingdom of Jerusalem. 700 knights, their mounts caparisoned in bright heraldry, form the steel corps. Around them marched nearly 10,000 infantry, spearmen from Antioch, crossbowmen from the Italian communes, Turcopole light cavalry raised in the Levant, and the stern, silent brothers of the military orders, the white-mantled Templars and the black-clad Hospitallers. At their head rides the king. He is not carried in a litter. He rides a specially trained destrier, a giant of a horse responsive to the pressure of his knees alone. His right arm is bound to his side, but his left holds the reins. Upon his shield, the gold cross of Jerusalem glints. He is a symbol, a flickering flame in the gathering dark. The people line the road as they pass, falling to their knees, not in pity, but in awe. The Leper King is leading them to war. Saladin, from his camp before Belvoir, receives the reports with growing intrigue. The Frankish host is moving not toward him, but northwest, toward the coast. What game is this sickly boy playing? He consults his emirs. Some urge an immediate assault on Belvoir to claim a concrete victory. Others, more cautious, warn of being caught between the fortress garrison and the relieving army. Saladin, a master of the strategic feint himself, recognizes a bold gambit when he sees one. The king is trying to dictate terms. Very well, he breaks camp, leaving a screening force to watch Belvoir, and turns his vast host, over 20,000 strong, a mix of elite Mamluks, Kurdish cavalry, Arab tribal levies, and siege engineers, northward. He will intercept the Franks before they reach Tyre. He will crush them in the open field. For 3 days, the two armies move on parallel courses, separated by the rolling hills of Lower Galilee, like two great ships on a collision course in a sea of grass and rock. Christian scouts and Muslim ghazis skirmish in the valleys. brief, bloody affairs of flashing blades and fleeing horsemen. The tension is a physical presence, a tightening wire in the gut of every soldier. Then, on the morning of the fourth day, the wire snaps. The Frankish vanguard, under the command of Gerard de Rydeford, crests a ridge and finds not the open road to Tyre, but the entire Ayyubid army arrayed before them, deployed for battle on the plains near the springs of Ain Jalut. The land here is wide, gently sloping, perfect for the fluid cavalry tactics of the Muslim host. Saladin has won the race. He has chosen the ground. A messenger gallops back to the main Christian column, his face pale. The Sultan, his banners cover the plain. They are formed for battle. Council is divided, frantic. Raymond of Tripoli, his knowledge of this land absolute, rides to the king's side. "My lord, we cannot fight here. The land favors him. Our numbers are too few for an open engagement on his terms. We must turn aside, seek a stronger position, perhaps towards the springs of Sepphoris, where the terrain narrows." Guy de Lusignan, flushed with the urgency of the moment, disagrees. To turn is to show fear, to be harried and cut down on the march. "We are here. The enemy is here. God wills a trial of arms. We must stand." The king sits immobile upon his horse. He looks from Raymond's weathered, urgent face to Guy's blazing eyes. He looks past them to his army, the worried infantry, the knights making the sign of the cross, the Templars already chanting their psalms. The weight of the decision is a mountain upon his decaying frame. The fever whispers to him, a seductive call to oblivion. To choose wrong is to die and to doom his kingdom. He closes his eyes behind the silver mask. He does not pray for strength, for that he has in excess. He prays for clarity. And then he gives an order that seems to all the height of madness. "We will not fight here, nor will we retreat." He turns his horse, pointing not toward Tyre, not back to Sephoria, but to the northeast, towards a line of dark, barren hills. "We march there, to the horns of Hattin." A stunned silence falls. The horns of Hattin? It is a barren, waterless volcanic plateau crowned by two rocky peaks. It is a trap of its own making. Raymond opens his mouth to protest, but something in the king's posture, a terrible, absolute certainty, stills his tongue. The order is relayed. The army, confused but obedient, wheels from the path to Tyre and begins the grueling uphill march towards the ominous twin peaks. Dust clouds rise, marking their progress for the watching Muslim scouts. Saladin, from his command position, watches the Franks abandon the plain. He strokes his beard, a slow smile spreading beneath his stern gaze. They are fleeing, not toward safety, but into a barren desolation. The boy king has finally succumbed to panic. This is not a strategy, it is a death wish. He gives the order. His army, a flowing, confident tide, begins to move, not to attack, but to envelop. His cavalry units, light and fast, stream ahead, cutting off the Franks' retreat back to the springs of Sepphoris. Others press from the south and west. Like a master huntsman, he drives his prey into a waterless pen. By nightfall on July 3, 1187, the Christian host has reached the plateau of Hattin. They are exhausted, choking on dust. The springs are far behind them, held now by Saladin's advance guard. The Sea of Galilee glitters tantalizingly in the distance, but between it and the army lies the entire Muslim host. Saladin orders bonfires lit across the encircling hills. Thousands of points of light wink in the darkness, a constellation of doom, illuminating the desperate, thirst-crazed faces of the Christian camp. The Muslims sing prayers and beat war drums, the sound echoing off the barren rocks, a relentless psychological assault. In the Christian camp, there is no water. The infantry, the backbone of the army, are breaking. Men suck on pebbles, tear open veins of cattle to drink the hot, coppery blood. The knights conserve what little remains in their skins. In the royal tent, a final, furious council disintegrates. Raymond accuses Guy of pushing the king toward ruin. Guy accuses Raymond of cowardice. Gerard de Rydfort speaks of a martyr's glory. The king, seated on a camp stool, his body trembling with exhaustion and disease, listens. Finally, he speaks, his voice a dry rustle. The fault is not in the ground, but in the division that brought us to it. We have walked into the snare. Now we must chew off our own leg to escape. He unveils his desperate last plan. It is not a plan for victory, but for survival. At dawn, Raymond will lead the vanguard. His task is not to fight, but to break through. He will charge the Muslim lines on the northern slope toward the village of Lubia. He must punch a hole, a corridor. The rest of the army will follow in his wake, not to turn and fight, but to run, to reach the springs at Hattin village or the lake beyond. We abandon the baggage, we abandon everything but our lives and our swords. Raymond, the pragmatist, nods. It is a terrible, costly chance, but the only one left. Guy looks ill. To run is a blot on his honor, but he consents. Dawn breaks, bloody and hot. The Christian army forms its dwindling ranks. The infantry, parched and demoralized, are a brittle shield. The knights, their throats like leather, mount up. Raymond assembles his household knights, the best of Tripoli. With a thunder of hooves, they launch themselves down the northern slope, not in a disciplined charge, but in a desperate, concentrated sprint for life. And here, Saladin's lieutenant, positioned on the northern flank, makes a fateful decision. Interpreting this sudden, furious charge as the main Frankish attack, he does not stand and receive it. He orders his men to part, to open the gates of the trap. The Ayyubid cavalry flows aside like water around a stone, allowing Raymond's wedge of knights to pass through unimpeded, showering them with arrows, but not closing to melee. Raymond and his men burst free onto the open road, leaving the main army behind. To the Christians on the hill, it looks like a miracle. The path is open. With a ragged cheer, the rest of the army, the knights, the king's contingent, the military orders, surges forward to follow the escape route. But they are not a compact spearhead. They are a disorganized mob, desperate for water and salvation. And Saladin, watching from the heights, smiles his coldest smile. He has not been outmaneuvered, he has been obeyed. He raises his hand. As the Frankish mass pours into the corridor Raymond has seemingly opened, Saladin signals his reserves. The gates of the trap slam shut. Fresh regiments of Kurdish and Turkish cavalry, held back for this moment, close the gap behind Raymond's fleeing cohort. They then wheel inward, attacking the elongated, vulnerable column of the main Christian force on its flank and rear. Simultaneously, the Muslim infantry advance up the hill, pressing the crumbling Frankish infantry from the front. Chaos, absolute and total, consumes the plateau. The Christian charge disintegrates into a series of isolated, doomed knots of resistance. The infantry, seeing their escape route severed, break. They throw down their weapons and flee toward the horns, the twin peaks, where there is no water, but only higher ground and a slower death. The knights are surrounded. They fight with the terrible, hopeless courage of the damned. They dismount, forming a shield wall around the true cross, the kingdom's most sacred relic, which had been carried before the host. But it is a shrinking island in a rising sea. King Baldwin, at the center of this final stand, fights. His horse is killed beneath him. He rises, his left hand holding a sword. A Templar knight stands back to back with him, guarding his blind side. They are a last bastion of a dying world. The Muslim cavalry circles, darting in to lance and slash. The heat is infernal. The dust is mixed with blood, churned into a foul mud. Then, a twist of fate so cruel, it could only be historical truth. The wind shifts. It blows from the east, from the direction of the Muslim lines, carrying not relief, but smoke. Saladin, in a final, merciless stroke, has ordered the dry grass on the slopes set ablaze. Thick, acrid smoke billows across the plateau, blinding the choking Christians, stealing the last breath from their parched lungs. It is the end. Through the smoke, a figure on a gray horse emerges. It is not Saladin, but one of his emirs. He calls out in broken French. The Sultan offers quarter. Lay down your arms. The life of the king will be spared. The remaining knights look to their monarch. Baldwin IV, his silver mask smeared with soot and grime, his body leaning heavily on his sword, lifts his head. To fight on is to see every last man slaughtered. To surrender is to live, but in chains, his kingdom forfeit. He sees the true cross fall, captured by whooping Saracen infantry. He makes a choice not of king, but of a shepherd. He lets his sword drop to the ground. The clatter is lost in the roar of the flames. The Battle of Hattin is over. The field is a slaughterhouse. The knightly elite of the Kingdom of Jerusalem is dead or captured. Raymond de Chatillon is beheaded by Saladin's own hand. Gerard de Riedfort is captured. Guy de Lusignan is led away, a prisoner. But Saladin seeks one prize above all others. He rides through the carnage to the small circle of survivors where the Leper King stands, defenseless. Saladin dismounts. He approaches the masked figure. For a long moment, the two greatest adversaries of their age regard one another in silence. The vigorous, victorious Sultan in his prime, and the broken, diseased king in his silver mask. Saladin expects to see fear, defeat, despair. He does not. Behind the mask, Baldwin's eyes meet his. They are clear, calm, and burning with an undimmed fire. There is no surrender in them, only a grim, unyielding acknowledgement. Saladin, for all his victory, feels a chill that had nothing to do with the dying fires. He has broken the army, but he has not broken the spirit. He has not captured a king, he has captured a legend. Your war is over, Saladin says, his voice quiet. Baldwin's voice, when it comes, is hoarse from smoke, but steady. Yours, he whispers, is just beginning. Saladin orders him placed under guard to be treated with the respect due to his rank. But as he turns away, the Sultan knows the boy's words are a curse, not a plea. The physical kingdom may fall. Jerusalem will be taken in mere months, its cross cast down. But the idea of the Leper King, fighting to his last breath on a waterless hill, will not die. It will become a rallying cry. It will summon a new crusade from across the sea. The victory at Hattin is the greatest of Saladin's life, but in the eyes of his masked prisoner, he sees its limit. He has won the land. He has not won the war. You have just witnessed the hinge upon which history turned. The fall of the Kingdom of Jerusalem was not a simple collapse, but a tragic symphony of human ambition, frailty, and indomitable will. This is not a story from a dusty tome. It is a living, breathing saga of clashing empires and souls tested in fire. This narrative is drawn from the opening chapters of The Leper King's Shadow, the true story of Baldwin IV and the fall of Jerusalem. Do not let this be the end of your journey. Click the link below to immerse yourself in the full, unflinching epic. Discover the secret letters that shaped alliances, the personal diaries that reveal the king's private torment, and the military tactics that decided the fates of millions. See the world through the eyes of not just kings and sultans, but of knights, surgeons, traders, and spies. We have negotiated an exclusive launch offer for the next 72 hours. Purchase the definitive hardcover edition and receive the full 12-hour immersive audiobook narrated by an award-winning voice actor, absolutely free. This is more than a book. It is a portal to the 12th century. Secure your copy now and own a piece of history that will forever change how you see the world. Courage and the fragile line between triumph and ruin. The legacy of the Leper King awaits. Claim it.